If you feel inspired to take an action, then you take an action from your masculine energy. But just make sure that every action you take from your masculine energy is guided from your, you can call it wisdom, you can call it feminine energy, but like it's not from a triggered state. Don't take the action while you're in fear. Don't make the choice while you're triggered, because you can't access your wisdom when you're in fear anyways. So
you started your journey in chemical engineering. How did your scientific background shape the way you understand mind-body healing today?
My mentor always says to me, 2% less fear is like 200% more access to your wisdom. Meaning like, even if you're just in a little bit less fear and urgency, you have way more awareness and clarity.
If you really, really want to change your life, get in shape. Get into shape, and then you start to realize that there's more to it than that, because the mindset is actually the most important part in getting in shape. Because mindset is, okay, well, I'm going to go to sleep on time. I'm actually going to get up on time and go and train in the morning. Or if I'm going to train after work, I'm going to go to the gym instead of going drinking with the lads in the pub. Hey, Conscious Man 7 family, quick question before we start. Do you love the depth of these conversations but hate when ads break the flow? I get it. Ads can feel like speed bumps on a highway, pulling you out of that deep zone. That's why we created a way for you to enjoy every episode completely ad-free while supporting the show at the same time. For just a few bucks a month on Patreon or Locals, you'll get full access to uninterrupted episodes. You'll get direct access to me so you can ask me any questions that you have, some cool other perks like early releases, and you'll also help us keep bringing you the powerful conversations that mainstream platforms won't touch. The link is in the show notes. Join us there and be part of this movement. If you are new to this podcast, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and to share, because that helps us to be recommended in the algorithms. If you would like to support this podcast, please check out our merch store on Amazon with the brand Todd and Me. We've got some cool t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, and sweaters. Link will be in the description of this podcast. And if you're now starting a spiritual journey, you would like to start a spiritual journey, or you're currently on a spiritual journey and you would like some help removing some fears and traumas, please hit me up on my Instagram at Adriano_246, and I will help you to get some magic mushrooms. Enjoy the show and stay tuned, because we have some more great content coming soon. What if stopping the fight to fix yourself was the fastest way to heal? In a world obsessed with optimization, fixing, hacking, and improving, today's guest, Alicia Kapani, discovered something radically different. Hello, beautiful and amazing people. Welcome to the Conscious Man 7 podcast. I am your host, Todd Cave. After battling severe depression and suicidal thoughts, Alicia tried everything: therapy, energy work, endless modalities, and nothing worked, until she stopped trying to fix herself and surrendered. That surrender opened a door to mind-body medicine, quantum healing, and an entirely new understanding of consciousness. In this episode, we dive deep into how healing begins when you stop running from your pain, how science and spirituality are finally meeting, and how your body's wisdom already knows the way. Get ready to expand your consciousness, question the limits of what's possible, and feel some things real.
When truth is blurred by lies and misinformation, perception becomes reality. What will you perceive your reality to be?
Liberate your fears and walk with me.
Sit down and meditate. Connect with your soul.
Be a monster and then learn how to control it.
You gotta be willing to do the work.
So it really goes really deep in terms of words and etymology and what they mean. So this is why it is really hard to really crack the matrix, because there's so many levels and layers to it, Hello, Alicia. Welcome to the Conscious Man 7 podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing great. I love that introduction. And that's exactly what we're going to cover. And I can't wait for people to learn from this.
Yes, I was kind of intrigued by you, because you're a little. I didn't ask your age off camera. You feel free to say if you want or not. But I know for sure you're younger than me.
Uh-huh.
And what I found kind of interesting is that almost all the guests that I talk to are older than me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm 43 years young, and I started my sort of refinement period when I was 36. And was it 36 or 30? 35, 30, one of the two,
Mm-hmm.
2017 and 2036. And what happened to me is everything collapsed. But I was in my later 30s. But you look way younger than me. So, and
Yeah.
you are talking about the same things I'm talking about,
Uh-huh.
which was like, okay, this is quite interesting here. And then you were a chemical engineer. I used to be a civil engineer.
Yeah.
So I completely get the logical mind thinking, how being structured and ordered is part of being an engineer, because we're very mathematics based, black and white.
Yeah.
And when you start to wake up and start to learn about yourself and learn about these things, there's a lot more gray than it is black and white. So I thought, okay, this would be a very interesting opportunity to hear a perspective from someone a little bit younger than me. So if you don't mind, can I ask, how old are you?
Yeah, I'm 33, and I started this awakening experience when I was 22, which was like 2015 or something. So kind of around a similar time that you had your experience.
Wow, that is very interesting because, I mean, for me, when I had my refinement period started, I was way ahead in my career. I was doing well in life. I had traveled the world a lot, had loads of fun, earning well as well. And then for it to all to be taken away was really, really difficult because I had spent so many years in England at that time working hard to become what I thought I was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I only saw my career advancing more because I used to be a field engineer. So basically, I used to do quality assurance, so QA for other people. That's the acronym QA.
Mm-hmm.
And the next step for me would have been senior project field engineer or senior QA manager or head of quality. That would have been the next step for me. And then from there, project manager, etc. So for me, when that happened, like when that all was taken away, that completely crushed me. But to hear that you were 22, that is kind of interesting. So, like, what was it like then? Like, when you, for to be such a young lady, for that to happen to you, you just, I'm assuming, just finished university, no?
It was in my last semester of university, and the trigger was actually a relationship. So I was dating this guy who had extreme anxiety. And so he would like throw up every time he felt anxious. And so I knew that if I made him anxious, that he would leave me. So I would suppress all of my emotions, what I was thinking, what I was feeling. If I was upset with him, I wouldn't tell him. And that's when I started having depression because I'm a very sensitive person. I feel things very deeply. I've always been that way my entire life, but now I was suppressing myself more than usual. I was always suppressing my emotions and like trying to be the obedient, peaceful one, like don't create drama, you know. But now it was like, oh, I'm terrified of losing him. He's like the only person I've ever loved, like truly loved. So I just was like, okay, don't do anything that will trigger him. And so I had to like act like everything was fine when it wasn't, when I was like so upset that, you know, like he was being distant and all these types of things. And I just like acted like I was okay with it. And that's what started the depression so young. So I think it would have happened eventually. I just needed to find someone that I really cared about, that I had a fear of losing, to like bring up these like abandonment wounds that I was carrying. So regardless of age, I think it would have happened to me at some point or another. But I am very grateful it happened near the end of university, because if it happened sooner, I don't think I would have graduated. Because I didn't have any motivation when I had depression in my last semester. So I was really grateful that I had taken spring and summer courses and all that kind of stuff beforehand. So my last semester, I only had 3 courses, and like one of them was like an easy option, like drama or something. So like, and one of them is like your design project. So like, it was like I barely had any work to do. And I'm so thankful, because if I had like 6 classes of regular engineering workload when I had depression, I would have failed, like for sure. So.
Okay, very interesting. So you have openly spoken about struggling with depression and suicidal thoughts, and you mentioned that briefly just now. So can you take us back to the exact moment? What was the breaking point that led you to your spiritual awakening?
Yeah, so I definitely didn't have it like as soon as I started having depression. It didn't happen until near the end when I healed from depression, so about 4 to 5 years later. So what it took was me first like maxing out on everything else, like trying all these other things that weren't working, trying first of all to distract, and then trying conventional like medication, therapy, all the things, then trying a bunch of unconventional things, hypnosis, acupuncture, EFT, EMDR, all these types of things. And then there was a period where I kind of gave up because I thought that just like nothing worked, because I thought I had tried everything. And so there was this little bit of softening, a little bit of surrender, and that opening had me like release this desperate energy to heal. And when I wasn't in this desperate energy to heal, I received a resource that actually really resonated with me and was exactly what my body was looking for. You know, I just heard my mentor speak on some summit that I don't even know how I signed up for. It was like so synchronistic. And then I found Mind Body Medicine and I healed right away. And so that's what kind of created the awakening, was like starting to look within instead of giving the power away to practitioners outside myself, and realizing that I have this power within to heal myself, and that, you know, your consciousness is creating your reality and all these types of things. And that's when the awakening journey started.
Okay, so what did surrender actually look like for you? And was there like a specific moment when you realized that you need to fix yourself was part of the problem?
So no, I didn't realize it. And there was a specific moment, but it happened by accident. It was that moment where I kind of gave up, what I was just talking about, how I just thought nothing worked. So then I stopped trying things. So before that, I was like spending thousands of dollars every month trying all these different modalities and trying them at the same time. So like, I don't know, maybe I was seeing 2 to 3 practitioners a week, every week, all month. And then I went from that to doing absolutely nothing, right? Like I was like, I'm done. Nothing works. I'm not seeing any more practitioners. I'm done. And that was the opening. That was the surrender. It was like, okay, it's kind of like I sent a different message to my body. Like, I'm not trying to fix you anymore. You know, there was just a little bit of a softening. And that's what the surrender looked like for me, to be honest. It looked like I was giving up. It wasn't giving up in terms of like hopelessness. It was just more like, I don't know what else to try, so I'm just going to stop trying. So that's what it looked like.
You know, I'm smiling here because that is almost exactly what happened to me. Yeah. Where when I started this journey, I kind of like let go of myself because I was getting really fat. I was on crutches for 15 months. Mm-hmm. And then I started to get into shape. And then, you know, I came to Mexico to find myself, started plant medicines and stuff. And then there was a point in time where like I was doing medicine and nothing was working. And I kind of just like gave up, but it wasn't giving up like, oh, sod it to the world. But it's just like, what else do I need to do? And it was like, there was a period, a few months after that, where I guess I've never thought of it as surrender. I just called it letting go. Yeah. But I guess surrender is a good word as well. I just surrendered and let go. And then things started to move for me, and I started to realize what I was supposed to do and what was my purpose. So it's quite interesting. It's almost like if it is definitely part of the journey where you have to just surrender, you just let go. I tell my clients that you have to jump off the cliff. And that is what it looked like for me, where I don't know, because I don't know if I had a past life of heights, but the vision that I always saw was me on a cliff and me jumping off and my higher self telling me, Todd, I have you, I'll catch you. And it was this faith to jump off. And every time that I have challenges now that are kind of similar or difficult, I always have to remind myself, jump off the cliff. Every time I jump off the cliff, I'm caught, I'm saved, and it works out. So, that's why I was smiling, because it was like very, very similar to me,
Yeah. My mentor actually got me a necklace it's like a girl jumping off a cliff into the water. And she gave that to me at like the most perfect time in my life when I was like transitioning from engineering to what I'm doing now. And it was just kind of like a sign, like you can let go, like you're held, you're sourced, like you can do this. So every time I was scared about quitting, I would put that necklace on and I would welcome the fear. And it really helped.
Wow, very interesting then.
Yeah.
A little bit of synchronicity there. So you've said that when you stopped fighting your pain, your body began to heal almost instantly. What do you think shifted energetically or consciously at that moment?
Yeah. So our bodies bring up this pain or these symptoms for a reason, to show you what you're carrying that's not serving you. And it's not happening for you to just suppress it back down. Like, it doesn't make sense that this is coming up for you to just go to a doctor, take a pill, and then it goes away. Like, no, there's something your body needs. And as soon as you figure out what the root cause is and you give your body what it needs, then obviously it's going to heal. And so for depression, I didn't realize it at the time, but depression is just stuck energy, like suppressed emotions. So the second I stopped suppressing my emotions and started welcoming what I was feeling, I was giving my body exactly what it needed. And so that's why I started healing right away, because also your body already knows how to heal itself. It is a transmuter is a word I like to use. It already knows how to dissolve energy or release emotions, if that's a word that makes more sense to people listening. So when you're not in resistance, then your body can work as it's designed and dissolve these unwanted emotions. So essentially, the second I got out of resistance, I started healing and just let my body do what it's best at.
Yeah, again, it is almost like the surrender, because a book that was very pivotal in my journey was The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer.
Yeah.
And I actually read that book twice. And, it's mad because in my journey, every time I was at a point where I was stuck, I either heard a podcast that had a book recommendation, someone gave me a book, or I would get a book recommendation on YouTube. It was mad. So I went down this massive binge on reading books and listening to audiobooks. Like, my life depended on it, because that's how I felt. I felt like my life was dependent on it. And the Surrender Experiment was huge. This is why I use the term jumping off the cliff, because that's what it felt like to me after reading his book, where I was like, okay, I jump off the cliff,
Totally. I find that people aren't usually ready to surrender until they've maxed out on everything else. I've noticed, like, no one wants to feel their pain because they don't know that there's any power in going into it. So it's like the one thing that will help them heal, but the last thing that people will think to do until they've tried everything else, which is okay if that's your journey, because that's almost everyone's journey.
Yes, I concur. And I have had so many conversations now on my podcast, and every single person that I've spoken to have said almost verbatim the same thing, that it got so bad that they just couldn't take it anymore and they just let go. And that's what happened to me. And I find that, like, today in our world, like, while I'm very careful my words, what I do realize that humanity will continue to struggle unless it has a severe traumatic experience collectively that shocks us to the core, that basically splits our personalities, that we wake up. because at the moment, while things for some people are very bad, it's still really good. And while they don't want bad things to happen, it seems like it's part of the journey where you get that traumatic experience that you're forced to wake up. And waking up only seems to come from pain, which is the sad reality.
Well, I read this book. It's called The Seed of the Soul, and it talks about how there's two ways to awaken. The first one is through pain, and the second one is through like listening to your wisdom, the guidance that you're always being given, because technically you're getting insights and awareness all the time. Like the second something feels off, you are feeling it, but you're just ignoring it, you know? And so if we actually, every single time we were triggered, welcomed every single trigger and listened to our body every single time, then we could use that information the very first time. And then it doesn't have to turn into significant pain or a traumatic event to awaken us. So some people do awaken that way, but those people have been taught usually from a young age, like maybe they have parents that knew this and taught their children how to listen to their body's wisdom at a young age. But I find that very rare that people awaken the second way. It's usually traumatic experience.
Yeah, which is why I say all the time, I'll make sure that I don't want these things to happen, but it just seems like this is the only way, because that's the journey for almost every single person. Not almost, every single person I've spoken to has had the same journey. And other people who have been influential in the world, that has been their journey as well. So it's almost like, I guess, a rite of passage. So we were talking about the pain and stuff that you went through. So how did that experience become the foundation for your work today as a mind-body mentor and quantum health coach?
Yeah, so it was not a plan. Like I said, I was working as an engineer at the time, and I had no plans to do what I'm doing now. It just happened. Like I went to one of my mentor's retreats after I'd already healed from depression. And, I just happened to tell her, like, I took one of your courses. I healed from depression right away. She's like, oh my God, that's crazy. I need to have you as a guest on my podcast. Like, my audience needs to hear this. So then I shared my story on her podcast on how I used her work to heal from depression. And so then her community started asking to work with me. So it just kind of happened, and it all happened actually within a week of me leaving my job as an engineer. This just got created for me. And so I was really lucky. I never had to like market myself, create my own business, like create my own website. Like it was a sweet deal. And I think that's just the way it was meant to be for me. Not everyone's journey looks like that, right? Like some people, they've got their job. I can tell you exactly what it was that helped this get created for me that I think most people are not doing. Most people are in jobs that they hate and not allowing themselves to feel how much they hate their job, or just like, maybe hate is a strong word, but like, it's not what they would do for free till the day they die. Like, it's not a passion. They don't love it. And most people won't admit that to themselves because they think that this is all that's available for them and they need to have a job and this is pretty good. So why not just settle for this and like be happy with what I've got? But the problem is when you do that, you stay in the exact same consciousness. So nothing new can get created unless you're forcing it, right? But if you come into even a slightly higher consciousness than where you're at, then now you will see a new reality and new opportunities just show up for you. You don't have to force them. They're just there when you're in a different reality. So once I had dissolved so much fear, like I would sit there and think about quitting and feel all the fear. And I would do that consistently. I think I did it for about like 6 months to a year. But it wasn't until like it got really, really intense, like within the last week, I really felt all the fear. I'm like, oh my God, like I don't want to go back to work. Like, cause I had taken a leave of absence for a year and they had given me like a week's notice. They're like, hey, you have a week to decide if you're coming back I worked at TransCanada at the time. They're like, you have a week to decide. So then I felt all the fear way more intensely. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to go back, but I still don't know what's next. And I was just terrified of quitting before I knew what was next. So then I just sat with the fear like the entire week, like all day, every day for an entire week until I didn't feel fear, because your body knows how to dissolve fear, right? So I just kept welcoming it until it dissolved. And then when I wasn't feeling fear, I just had this knowing that abundance was my birthright. I don't know how to describe it, but it's just that when you're not feeling fear, you're literally not scared. So, and fear was the only thing keeping me at that job, right? Like I already had clarity. I didn't want to be there anymore. So when there was no fear, immediately my reality shifted within a week, and I knew it was about to. I remember telling my mentor, I was like, I can feel my energy's totally different. I was in unthinkable fear and I feel zero fear. So I think my reality is about to change. And then a week later, like it did.
Wow. I wish it were like that for me, because I just had pain and more pain, and then the pain just got like 100 times worse. Mm-hmm. And then it multiplied again and then again and again. So basically my my mentality is carved from pain. Mm-hmm. And this is why, like, when I work with my clients, I totally get where they are, because I've been through, that's why I call it my refinement period all the time, because I literally went through the fire, and every single time, the fire got turned up hotter. Mm-hmm. And it reminds me very much of a temescal. What's a temescal?
No.
Okay, so temescal is basically like a sweat lodge, is like a sweat box. Basically, the natives in the Americas, they used to do it to prepare themselves for battle, before and after. And you go into, they heat up these rocks, mostly volcanic rocks, very, very, very hot. And they basically throw water and some spices on the thing. So it's like this is like a sauna times 100.
Yeah.
So that you have to basically bend down and have your face in your lap to even get through it.
Wow.
So that pushes your mind to depths that one can't even imagine. So I've done that like 3 times. Mm-hmm. And my refinement period felt like a temescal for years. Yeah. So until I broke, and then I just got tired of the pain. So that was me. But I guess there's one commonality, regardless of how long it lasts for, and that is pain. And I think what you're saying is true about your body knows how to dissolve pain. And for everyone, it just takes a little bit longer. I'm a stubborn guy, so I did all that to myself because, well, my personality is like that. When I'm doing something, I tend to stick to it regardless. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I don't give up.
Okay.
But that was to my detriment as well, because I wouldn't give up trying to not give up, right? So
that's like one of the main reasons I see people not healing, and it was one of the reasons I didn't heal either, was because you're trying either so many things, or like maybe you're just trying this one thing and you won't give up on that one thing, rather than listening to your body, because the resource that you need will feel really light. And so don't like just stick to one thing just because you said, or maybe you're the type of person that's like, when you start something, you got to finish it kind of thing. But like, let's say you signed up for a course that you thought would help you, but then immediately after the first module, you're like, this doesn't resonate. This feels heavy. Like, you got to honor your body. This is not going to be the thing that helps you heal if it feels heavy, because that's your body's way of telling you, don't go in that direction. That's not what I'm asking for. So if anyone listening wants to save time, energy, and money, listen to those signals if something feels heavy or light. Some people think things are just meant to feel heavy or meant to be hard, and it's actually not the case. If it feels heavy, it means it's not required. It's not the thing that's going to move the needle. It will be something that really resonates, lights you up, and there's not a lot of things that will make you feel that way, because your body really only needs like one thing usually. And not everyone is going to resonate with you. Not every practitioner is going to resonate with you. I've only had 3 mentors in my life, or 3 experiences in my life really, that were like, every cell in my body is lighting up and is like, you're working with this person, like there was just no question. It felt like a hell yes. And that does not happen all the time. And those people that I did work with, oh my God, my life transformed like crazy by working with those people. So that's not going to happen if something feels heavy. That's not going to be transformative for you.
So, this brings us on to a very interesting topic here because, most people listening are on a constant quest for healing, especially today. Why do you believe the obsession with self-improvement often keeps us stuck?
I would say because a lot of the times we're sending a message to our body that like, I don't love you as you are. So it's like conditional love. Like I'm doing this work to improve myself because I don't really love myself the way I am unconditionally. And you need unconditional love in order to heal. And your body can 100% tell the difference. So if you're reading these books because you feel actually a lot of shame and insecurity and not good enough, that literally didn't create any difference, right? You have to actually integrate it. The information is not going to be enough. You have to integrate it. And the integration comes from more of a feminine approach, like a slowing down, sensing, feeling, expressing, receiving. And that's the part that I see people are missing. They're almost only doing the masculine approach, like taking more action, maybe reading more books, getting more information, things like that. But they're not really softening into their feminine energy, which is like, I need to feel what I'm feeling. And
that's very interesting that you said that because like I said just now, I did like a lot of medicine. So in me doing that was me and my very masculine, because I'm very, very masculine in my nature, because I was a civil engineer, sportsman, and, born in Barbados, very masculine traits. But I was focusing a lot on the doing, but I wasn't integrating a lot of stuff or like listening, I would get glimpses here and there, but I was more focused on the doing and not necessarily on the listening and the receiving. So for people then that also do psychedelics, and I've done a bunch of it, the integration, which is the feminine part, is very, very important. In fact, my shaman says to me all the time that the integration is the most important part of doing the medicine. And I literally just came back from an ayahuasca retreat last week. So that was interesting. And, I did receive some messages which I am implementing. So I concur that is the listening, the feeling, is leaning into the feminine part of it that pulls you through. But you still need to do the masculine to do, because there's some people that are stuck in doing. So you actually have to have a balance between the two.
Yeah, but I would say you have to do feminine before masculine, because if you do masculine before feminine, you end up suppressing your emotions and feeling them less fully. So for example, if you're feeling fear and you are like, hey, I'm feeling fear, I need to do something about it. So you take whatever action that is, or maybe. So the masculine approach isn't just taking action. Masculine approach is also just bigger picture awareness. Like, I can see what's really going on here. Like, there's no real threat here. There's nothing to truly be scared about. So bigger picture awareness, transcendence, and taking action is the masculine approach. But if you do that first, you're now going to feel the fear temporarily less, because you're like, oh, I've done something about it. I've taken an action towards fixing this. Or I can see that like this isn't a real threat. So like I have nothing to be scared about. And so now you temporarily feel the fear less. But just because you're feeling it less didn't mean it actually left the body. It can't leave the body until you do the feminine approach. So I always tell people you need to soften first, welcome the fear first, or whatever the emotion is. And then once you feel a little bit lighter, if you feel inspired to take an action, then you take an action from your masculine energy. But just make sure that every action you take from your masculine energy is guided from you can call it wisdom, you can call it feminine energy, but like it's not from a triggered state. Don't take the action while you're in fear. Don't make the choice while you're triggered, because you can't access your wisdom when you're in fear anyways. So it's not very helpful.
I never thought about it like that, but I guess that is what I've been doing in recent times because I guess for me, my journey is that I have to rely on intuition now. So even though I am very masculine in my nature, I go a lot now on intuition in terms of if I, even when it comes to guests, my assistant now helps me with my guests.
Mm-hmm.
And because she's been working with me for so long now, she knows exactly who I am, what I am, and I let her bring propositions to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then because of the summary that she gives me, then I take the choice to invite her or not.
Mm-hmm.
And she's the one that chose you, because what I'm realizing now is that as a man, you have to have good counsel. And I find that there's something, I call it women's superpower, and it's their intuition. And I find that when you have good counsel, that person that say, hey, look over here. Have you checked that? What about this? Have you checked inside that rock? It really helps you to take like very good actions, because I'm very good at taking action. But now I tend to rely now on that feminine energy, that wisdom where like I just hear the voice comes in. I say, okay, I don't listen. I listen and I just do. Yeah. So my actions now are very much backed up by that energy now. So I guess I didn't think of it that I had to surrender or I let the feminine energy, but because I was just through so much pain, I just said, I'm going to try something different. And it's been working out so far. So I'm just doing what works, right? But I think you explained it quite well. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, that's the thing. People don't know that there's so much power in the feminine energy because they won't allow themselves to ever see it, because they'll immediately take some sort of action. And so then how would you ever see that what happens when you soften and surrender? You literally won't see it. And I find that fear and control go hand in hand. And that's like usually the main reason why people won't surrender and soften, because they're like, no, I have to control this. I got to make sure that like I'm at least doing something to fix the problem. But then you never actually see that problems get taken care of for you when you're in feminine energy. Like feminine energy is receiving. And so when I'm in my feminine energy, problems always get taken care of for me, or they just go away, or I get the exact insight on what I need to do if I need to go into my masculine energy to do something. But the power is in the feminine, and most people don't even look there.
Yes, very, very true. So when someone feels broken, how can they start practicing surrender without falling into apathy or spiritual bypassing?
Yeah, okay. So surrender, I would say, is more like softening instead of this like tense go-getter energy, So just try to soften more. And I would question everything that you're currently doing or planning on doing. Feel into each one. Does this feel heavy or light? And even before that, you won't be able to tell if something feels heavy or light until you've kind of processed some of the fear, because something could feel fearful and you're converting that to that feels heavy, but that's not the same thing. Heavy means like it's glitchy, it's not resonant, it's forced, it's just not feeling natural. Like an example of that would be like when I was trying to heal from depression and I would Google how to heal from depression, and I would click every single link, and I would go to the second page and the third page, and I'd click every single link, and I'm doing this in this frantic energy of I don't want to be in this pain anymore, so I'm going to try every single thing. Like just feel the energy of that. That's not softening. That's not tuning into my body, asking what you need. It's different if I tune in my body, I was soft, and my body's like, oh, maybe you should Google this. And then I Google, and it's like the first thing that I click. And that one thing is standing out to me. Like it's a very different energy. So I would just say try to soften even 2% more and question everything that you're doing if it feels heavy or light. And in the things that are feeling heavy, drop them. And if it feels scary to drop them because maybe you feel like I'm doing nothing if I drop them, that's the feeling you need to sit with. Like what comes up when you think you're doing nothing? Oh, I have no value, or like nothing is going to change, like whatever comes up. And then you need to start welcoming that, because that's the reason you're not surrendering, is you have some sort of limiting beliefs about what surrendering means. Like it's giving up and nothing's going to change. So you have to welcome that.
You just triggered something where Yeshua said, "My load is easy and my yoke is light." And that makes so much sense because the load that Yeshua was saying to become who he was isn't as heavy as people think. It's not a lot to do. So the load is easy. And the yoke, for people that don't know, the yoke is the thing that you have to guide the horse or the donkey to steer it. So the yoke is so light. It's just a slight touch here, a slight touch there. It's no yanking, it's no force, right? So that basically backs up what you're saying, where it doesn't have to be forced and so much great energy to put into it. It is like it's coming from this place inside of you where you click on this link and that's what it is, right? There's not 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 pages to go through in order to find the solution,
Mm-hmm.
So what's one inner question that helps people reconnect to self-trust when they're lost in the loop of trying to get better?
Question they can ask themselves if they're lost in self-trust in the loop of trying to get better. So like they don't trust that they're going to get better. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, because basically they're doing everything and they basically don't trust themselves anymore, because they don't think nothing works.
Yes. So I would say everything that you have tried, how many of those things did you actually tune in and be like, does this resonate with me? So it's not that you can't trust yourself. It's that you can't trust your decision making when you're triggered. So I would say pause on the decision making and the action taking until you feel a little bit lighter, until you feel a little less urgency. So like one thing that I recommended to one of my clients recently who's in a lot of urgency and fear, I was like, maybe on the next full moon or the next time you get your period or something like that, like I want you for that entire week to presence yourself 2% more than you normally do, right? Because I hear people say all the time, oh, I'm already doing that. I'm already welcoming my feelings. I'm already doing breath work. I'm already doing whatever. And I was like, okay, 2% more than what you normally do. I want you to be presencing what you're feeling and slowing down more. So this week is not about action, making decisions. This week is about slowing down more. But try to make it not feel like work, though. So meaning like when you're already laying down, so in the morning, as soon as you wake up and before bed, you're already laying down, so you're a little bit more relaxed. Or when you're sitting on the couch, like maybe you're about to watch an episode of TV, or maybe you just finished an episode of TV and you're already sitting down, you're already relaxed. Sit there for a few minutes more rather than just go on to the next task. Just slow down 2% more than you normally do for an entire week. And you're going to get a little bit less, like you're going to be out of urgency, just like a little bit less. And you'll probably feel the shift within 2 to 3 days, the less urgency. What was the question again? Why did I tell you to do that?
No, that was how to reconnect with self-trust.
Yes, yeah. Because only from there will you have more clarity. My mentor always says to me, 2% less fear is like 200% more access to your wisdom. Meaning like, even if you're just in a little bit less fear and urgency, you have way more awareness and clarity. And like, you just can see things more clearly because you're not making decisions from fear anymore. You're making decisions from a little bit less fear. And the decisions you make from fear and when you're not in fear are totally different, right? Like someone who's scared is going to just abandon themselves because they're like, I don't think things are going to work out unless I do it this way. But if you weren't carrying fear, you would just naturally trust. And the decisions you'd make would be very different and less urgent.
Yeah, I definitely can concur with what you said, because what I have realized in my entire life is that I always used to be very rash and very, like we say back home, shotgun method, where I just like, boom, just react. And now I tend to like, okay, let me think about this a little bit, before I actually say what I'm going to say or how I'm going to act or react. Because I find that almost all the time when you rush the things that you're going to do. I mean, obviously, you have to have, sometimes there are things that require an immediate thing, an immediate choice. Like, I mean, if you go to a restaurant, I mean, you're not going to sit on there and just wait for intuition, right? But I'm talking about life stuff, Yeah, I find that every time now that I take a little step back and I think about it, maybe like, maybe a day or two, and I really think through how does this feel with me, I tend to make the right choice the majority of the times because I'm not necessarily in that place of fear and not necessarily in that place of feeling pressure that I have to act or react in that moment, right? So that really does make a difference is I would say for myself as well.
Yeah, and what you said about the restaurant, I think is so important because I've noticed that people that are super disconnected from their wisdom, suppress all of their emotions, tend to be the people that when they go to restaurants, whatever they order, they end up hating, and then they want to eat what you ordered. I don't know if you've ever been to a restaurant with someone like that. My dad is always like that. He's like, you guys just need to order for me because I always hate what I order. And so now when I order, I really try to feel into it. Like, am I in the mood to eat something with like a fork or with my hands? And like each item, I actually try to feel into if I ordered it, like what that would feel like if I've eaten it before, or at least have an idea of what it would be like. And sometimes, like you said, I need time to feel into this. So I try to look at the menu before I go to the restaurant. So I don't feel rushed, because when you're feeling rushed, that's usually when you make decisions that really aren't aligned. So that's why I like to look at it beforehand. So when I don't feel pressured, I'm able to actually really feel into what do I want. But also every moment's a new moment. So even if I look at the menu, like maybe like when we made the reservation a day before, but then the next day I could be in the mood for something else. So you always have to keep checking in as well.
Yeah, I do get it. I find that it's really a bit of a balance depending on the circumstance and the situation, which requires which way you're going to go. But I find that for big life decisions or things that have big consequences, I think less rush, as we say in Barbados, more haste, less speed. So you try to rush it, but you're actually making two steps back by trying to be so quick. So if you want to be really quick, you can take a step back, analyze it, take your time, and then make the choice based now on analyzing now then with the skills we have. Does this resonate with me? How does this make me feel? What are the consequences that will come, the pros and cons, instead of just like how I used to do in the past, just fire from the hip and worry about the consequences later.
Yeah, it's like that saying, slow is fast, fast is slow, or something like that. Like, do you watch Big Brother by chance?
Pardon?
Do you watch Big Brother? It's a reality TV show.
I used to, when I used to live in the UK, but to be honest, I don't even own a telly. So I have not watched telly for properly maybe 10 years.
Okay. Well, there was this guy who was on this season of Big Brother, and he won almost every competition, but he was so slow. Like when people were watching him do, and these are timed competitions, and you have to be the fastest one to win the competition, but he would do everything so slow that people were like, what are you doing? And he would still win every competition. And it was just so clear by seeing that when you're not feeling rushed and you're not feeling the tension, you have more awareness. And he was able to figure everything out faster than everyone else and just like beast through the competitions. So yeah, definitely the whole slow is fast and fast is slow really resonates with me.
Yeah, the tortoise always beats the hare is what I always like to say. So you've said healing happens when you become safe within your own body. What does that process look like on a daily level?
Yeah, so essentially your body needs to get the message that you are always going to listen to it. And as soon as it knows that, I've noticed that people's symptoms and pain go away immediately, because this is only happening for you to give your body your loving attention and awareness. but not conditionally, not like, okay, I'll give you attention right now, but I'm going to go back to my regular way of living as soon as this pain goes away. No, your body has to know that this is like a forever thing, that you will always tune in and give your body loving attention and tune in and ask what it needs and give it what it needs and honor it. Like as long as that's your intention. That doesn't mean you have to do it every single time. Like there's still times where I don't honor my body, but I would say 90% of the time now I do. And my body just needs to know that that's my intention, that I'm not, if you're going to give me awareness, I will honor it. So, yeah, so you need to, like, every time you're presencing what you're feeling, what I usually do is I'll tell my body, this is the most important thing I could do all day, is presence you and give you my loving attention. And then I'll tune in and do the meditation or the whatever it is that I'm trying to do. Just so my body understands, like, you're important to me. And I'm not going to ignore you, suppress you, shut you down, like anything like that.
You know, it's mad the way you described it is like if your body has its own personality and it's like a different part of you where, like, I mean, obviously the body is the vessel and the vehicle, but the way you described it, it just made me think like the spirit inside of me is just dwelling. The body is its own entity. I'm interfacing with the body and I'm saying, hey, don't worry, I've got you. I'm going to take care of you. Tell me what's going on here. And they just take that time to breathe in, exhale, and they say, okay, tell me now, I'm listening. So it's almost like that's what you're describing.
Yeah, there's two ways to look at it. The way you just said, as if you're not your body, because you're not, obviously. The fact that you can even touch your body, feel your body means you're not your body. You're the one sensing the body, like you're the consciousness in the body. So you can think of it like that, like you're not your body. Or an easier way for people to think about it is like when you're in pain, think about it like that's a like just unhealed part of yourself, like maybe a younger version of yourself that needs love and compassion that didn't get what they need. Sometimes it's easier to think about giving that to a child rather than giving it to yourself, which is why I used to have a baby picture of myself as the background on my phone, as a reminder that every time I'm upset, I'm really just giving love and attention to her. And she's so easy to love. Like she's so cute, you know? Although the truth is it's not always like something that happened in this lifetime, right? It could just be an ancestral thing or a past life thing. Because we hold beliefs on 4 levels: core, soul, history, genetic. So core means it's something that happened in this lifetime. And, you know, it's usually like first 7 years of your life because that's when you're in the slower brainwave state. And then soul means like past lives, like you've taken on these beliefs from your past lives. And then genetic and history are the same thing, except one is for 7 generations. So history means it's been in you for 7 generations. So, but sometimes it's just easy to think about it like, oh, this is just me as a child who didn't get what she wanted or needed, and she's asking for love and attention. Sometimes that makes it easier to actually like drop it.
It's mad because when I did ayahuasca last week, I actually connected to a past life. And at the same time, I saw the younger version of myself, the boy, right? So it was like 2 visions at the same time. It was the pain and trauma that I had in a previous life. And then as soon as that scene shifted, I had the scene of myself as a child, a young child, right? So it is very much that younger child, that inner child, that the child in general that really needs the love and that's hurt. And you just have to go and give it a figurative hug and a kiss and say, I love you and heal it, you know? And that's what I had to do, you know, in that travel with ayahuasca. So yeah, it's, you know, I'm starting to see more and more that life is a massive mystery. And I find that our past lives, our ancestral trauma, then the trauma we have as children, and then things that happen to us like in history from way back when we can't even remember, really, really influence us in this present incarnation. And I find that is almost like if right now we're just rediscovering who we really are. And the more conversations that I have, the more I'm starting to realize that I really don't know much any at all. Even though, like I am a coach and I help and I guide people, but even myself, I'm starting to realize I'm just a mere student learning all of these magnificent things, because I never thought of it as like the four, you said ancestral, soul, historical, and core, right?
Yeah.
So I never thought of it like that. So that's even something I innately knew it, but I never heard it described like that to be able to name them. So I feel like I'm like a child when I do this podcast, because I'm constantly learning, and my points of view are changing like dramatically from when I first started. So guys, this journey of consciousness is infinite, and you never stop learning.
I agree. I feel like if you learned everything you came here to learn, you would have died already. That's my personal opinion, that you
Interesting.
pass on when you either learned everything you wanted to learn, or it's very clear you're not learning it in this lifetime, no matter how painful things got, no matter if you got some intense illness, you still didn't get the learning lessons. So then you pass on and you need like a refresh, a restart, and then you might choose to come back to Earth. That's my guess.
Yeah, I guess maybe in the future we have some people that come back from the dead and they tell us what it's like, That would be very interesting.
Yeah.
So you started your journey in chemical engineering. How did your scientific background shape the way you understand mind-body healing today?
Yeah, I think it's understanding that the body is primarily electromagnetic, and that if you break down the body into the smallest subatomic particles, you realize that you're mostly empty space and not actually physical matter. You're like 99.99999% empty space and less than 0.01% physical matter. So learning that helped me realize, oh, okay, so I'm actually primarily like energetic vibration, not just physical. Or just even understanding that I'm not just physical was what really clicked for me. That I'm like, okay, there's more going on here than just physical. There's energy that you can measure, right? You can actually detect this 8 to 10 feet outside your body, measure your electromagnetic field. It spreads out infinitely beyond that, but you can detect it up to 8 to 10 feet. So starting to understand that stuff like really started to click for me, realizing that your body is like it's a receptor, a transmitter, a transmuter. So receptor meaning you actually feel people's energy, and then transmitter means you're constantly like giving off an energy, and then transmuter means you know how to dissolve energy. So that was really helpful for me to understand, and also because I was already a really sensitive person, that was easy for me to comprehend, because I was like, yeah, I can feel people's energy. I can immediately tell if someone's upset, even if they're not saying anything. Like I can even feel it over a text message. Like if you're sensitive enough, you can feel, which means like, on some level you are a receptor. And also people can tell when you're upset. So you're obviously giving off something that people can feel. You don't have to call it energy. It's a frequency, it's a vibration, and those are not the same thing. But yeah, essentially you're on some level, I think everyone understands that. It's like when you can even tell that someone's watching you or someone's like behind you and you get like a feeling, like everyone on some level kind of knows like, okay, I'm giving off something, energy, frequency, vibration, and I can feel other people's. So it wasn't that hard for me to comprehend that the body's electromagnetic and energy, and that emotions are just energy, and that my body already knows how to dissolve emotions if I just get out of resistance. And then that's when everything clicked for me.
I guess like, it was kind of similar for me, because as a civil engineer, I was taught to look for structures, follow patterns, and problem solve. Because as a civil engineer, even though you may have experience doing certain types of projects, every single project you have to innovate and use the past experience to figure out the new challenge. So it was kind of similar for me, where I was very much taught how to look in structure. And I started to see patterns in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And I started to see that they actually interlinked. And I always used to, and the analogy I like to tell people is like, if you go into a room, you can feel if that room has darkness in it. You can go into the room and like, oh gosh, wow, that feels kind of dark in here. I said, that is what is the fabric of the universe. And they're like, okay. I said, yes, because you have these receptors, you have this intuition, you have this feeling inside of you that alerts you, right? So if it weren't true, you wouldn't be able to pick up that the people in that room are just very dark. Mm-hmm. And when I say that to them, people are now like starting to understand these things. They're like, okay, I get it. And they run with it. And then they start to see the connections now with their body and, you know, their mind as well, where the thoughts then and the feelings and your words and actions, there's an alignment there, you know? So what parallels do you see between quantum mechanics and human consciousness?
Yes. So I would say that your consciousness is creating your reality, which means your inner state, your state of being. So just think of it like the emotions you're carrying, the thoughts you're having, that's like your inner state. That's your state of consciousness that life is reflecting back to you. So you are constantly going to see just like a mirror reflection as just information to show you what you're carrying that's not serving you, you know? So I would say that like, as long as you are accepting everything in your life as a mirror reflection and taking full responsibility for every single thing that shows up in your reality, even if you think I have no control over that, like that has nothing to do with me, and start realizing like I actually am more powerful than I think and I'm creating my entire reality, that's when you'll really start to access your power. And I do think that it takes seeing the evidence of that first for people to actually know that there's any power in there and that your consciousness is creating your reality. So a moment that I had that had me actually realize that when I shift my consciousness, my whole reality is changing. I've had a million examples of this now, but the first time I actually was conscious that I was doing it and that it was working was when I had like this super scary problem that was happening in my life with my dad, and like cops were getting involved, and it literally looked like there was absolutely nothing that I could do to solve the problem. Because there's something about when cops get involved, you just feel like completely powerless. Like, okay, they have the power. There's nothing I can do. So because I felt like there was literally nothing I could do, I couldn't even go into that masculine fixing mode because I couldn't even think of an idea to do. So I was like, okay, I'm just feeling unthinkable fear and powerlessness right now, and I don't know what to do. So all I'm going to do is just welcome the fear and powerlessness. So that's all I did. And then as soon as I felt like a little bit lighter, the problem just completely went away without me having to do anything. A problem that seemed like there was nothing that could be done. And that was the moment that I saw, oh, when I just even shift my consciousness a little bit to like a 2% more peace, my reality has to respond and now be peaceful. So then anything that doesn't align with peace just goes away. And I've had a million examples of this. I mean, I could go on and on and on. My relationships with my family were so dramatic. Like I said, the cops would come to our house all the time growing up. Like my family is dramatic, okay? And every single relationship now in my family is so peaceful, and they haven't done any healing work. And a lot of them have narcissistic qualities too. And a lot of people think narcissists can't change, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, no, a narcissist is someone who is very insecure and has no self-love or self-worth. And so they need constant love and attention. And if they're showing up in your reality, they're a reflection of you. You're carrying shame. There's a lack of self-love within you. And if you're clearing that within yourself, you're going to see shifts in that person, or that person is just going to fade out of your life, or that person can't help but treat you differently. Like maybe they're still narcissistic around everyone else, but when they're around you, they're different. Because like I said, if you're in the state of peace, your reality has to be peaceful, which means that person can't act the same around you anymore or be in your life anymore.
Yeah, I concur. And I was telling this to a friend of mine recently because she has now started this journey, and her friends were telling her, but you're changing so much and you starting to get into shape and you doing all these things, and it's almost like you don't want to be with us anymore. I said to her, well, the thing is that most people, they can only act to you and behave with you where how they are in their lives. But you just have to maintain how you are and the journey that you're going on. And then the universe will take care of everything else in terms of how they interact with you, right? Because she's starting to worry now, like, but if I lose my friends, I said, well, the thing is that you will get new friends, and the way you are becoming and what you are trying to achieve, you will find that you will attract more people like you because they will drop off. You know what I mean? Not that you have to push them away, but because you have different habits now. You are not drinking that you used to. You're doing exercise. You're watching your nutrition. You're doing meditation. All of these are things that they don't do, right? So what will happen is that they will just have to interact with her the way she is now. And she was like, okay, I just didn't know that this was part of it. I says, there are a lot of layers to it, but I said, don't worry. You're trusting your intuition inside of you now to follow this journey, and everything else would take care. So all the panic that wants to come up, it will sort itself out as you grow and you get that inner peace. So I do concur with you where like your interaction with someone like a narcissist would change based on the way you are, because they can only react to you to how you are, how you are now and how you've become, you know?
Exactly. There's so much to say on that topic because I think something so common that happens to people that go on this healing awakening journey is they start to think, okay, I'm doing the healing work, they're not, so I'm going to cut these people out of my life because they're like lower consciousness, lower vibration. I say that all the time. And it was a mistake that I made. And I essentially like lost all of my friends or pushed all of my friends out of my life because I thought that like I was changing and growing and they weren't. And I didn't want to like, and I could just feel like my best friend, for example, was like really, really judging me. And so I was like, I don't want a best friend that judges me. So I'm going to stop being friends with you. But what was really happening was I was carrying shame and judgment, and she was reflecting that back to me. But I couldn't see it. So I cut her out of my life, but I still had shame and judgment. So I didn't actually heal anything. And so I eventually realized this, healed the shame and judgment, apologized, and luckily have that person in my life again, and we're closer than ever. And what I've noticed is even though I did the healing work and she didn't, our relationship is completely different. She's so different around me. She's not judging me, all these types of things. But that doesn't mean she's still not a judgmental person. I just noticed she's not that way around me. And then the rare times I see her interact with other people, maybe at a birthday or things like that, I see that side come out of her, like talking shit about other people, like this girl's ugly, like blah, blah, blah. But like she doesn't say those things around me, do those things around me, and I can feel she's not judging me. So that's just further example of like, just heal what's going on within you and people will treat you differently. Like, just don't try to control them and change them. That is literally not necessary. Like, they're on their own journey. And if they don't want to welcome their shame, that's okay. Like, it's super heavy and most people would rather die than feel it. So don't try to get people in your life to do healing work if they're not ready, and don't cut people out of your life that trigger you either, unless like they're harmful to you, because if they're triggering you, they are reflections of you and you're not just meant to cut them out.
Yeah, I think that's very well said, because I think that from, losing a lot of friends as well, that seems to be the best approach, where you just focus on yourself and because of the changes, that will determine how people will interact with you. And because you will have certain red lines or boundaries that you will tell them not to cross, they would know, okay, well, I'm with Todd, so I will not act this way or that way. But when they're with Bob, then they can act that way, because that's just a confirmation then that your world around you changes when you change yourself. No?
Mm-hmm.
So do you believe the bridge between spirituality and science is finally forming? And what role does evidence-based medicine have in this new paradigm?
Yes, 100%. There's so many studies about mind-body medicine specifically. Like at this point, I'd say almost everyone knows that your thoughts are affecting your health. But people will just simplify it these days and just say, oh, I'm aware that my stress is affecting my health. That's like pretty much the gist of what people are understanding. But there's so many studies out there now that it's like the exact belief is a match for that exact illness, or this exact emotion is a match for this illness. You know, for example, like Lyme disease, the common energy underneath Lyme disease is victim consciousness. Like, so someone that feels like life has happened to them and it's been really unfair, but then they also have this energy of trying to overcome. Like, yeah, my life's been really unfair, but I'm going to show them. So that's the energy of Lyme disease. And I don't know if you've ever read You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. It's essentially, you can just like look it up on Google, just go You Can Heal Your Life list, and it will show you common emotional causes for underlying symptoms. So there's already so many studies that show like, okay, if you're gaining weight, it's because you're carrying shame and anger, you know, or if you have high blood pressure, you know, you're carrying unresolved anger. Cancer is like fear and anger, you know, and it will tell you for every symptom and every illness. So yeah, I do think it's catching up because there's already so many studies about this and about mind-body medicine, and more also about quantum physics and that your consciousness is creating your reality. There's a lot of studies about that, which now I'm starting to see more people into quantum healing and bridging science and spirituality together. That's what I think quantum physics is bridging science and spirituality together.
You know, it's almost like if religion, science, mathematics were all one sort of like study way back when. And because of the powers that shouldn't be, they kind of split them. So I should say spirituality instead of religion. So spirituality became religion. And then, you know, the whole thing about mathematics became its own sort of religion as well. And then medicine became its own sort of religion. But there's a lot of evidence to show that in reality, when you mix them all together, they're really one study, which is of the human being, because, you know, consciousness is related to your thoughts and feelings. Then that also expresses itself in the physical world by how you act and react, and then also the things that you eat. So the way you think about yourself, what you believe about yourself, is a representation of what you eat. And what you eat then goes back inside of your body to confirm those thoughts and beliefs about what you feel about yourself. Mm-hmm. So this is why I tell people, like, if you really, really want to change your life, get in shape. Get into shape, and then you start to realize that there's more to it than that, because the mindset is actually the most important part in getting in shape. Because mindset is, okay, well, I'm going to go to sleep on time. I'm actually going to get up on time and go and train in the morning. Or if I'm going to train after work, I'm going to go to the gym instead of going drinking with the lads in the pub. So you realize then that getting in shape is much more mental than it is really physical. But a lot of people focus solely on the actual physical and doing, but not realizing that there's actually a link between of your beliefs, your thoughts, and then, you know, how you show up in the world in terms of your actions, reactions, and stuff. So it's very clear to me that there is literally no difference now between spirituality, science, And I guess now you can add in quantum physics because that's almost like its own discipline. But in reality, the way I see it, quantum physics confirms spirituality. I think it's like the physical thing that confirms what is esoteric, right? And unseen, right? That's what it looks like to me.
Yes, 100%, because it is unseen. Yeah, it's like, you know, that saying, if a tree falls in a forest and no one's around to, you know, witness it, did it make a sound? And most people would say yes, but the answer is actually no.
No.
The answer is actually no, because without consciousness, nothing actually exists. Nothing actually collapses into a reality without consciousness. So what they say is that if there was like literally no consciousness on the planet, well, then there would be no planet, essentially, because it's just like a matrix. It's a big illusion. And without consciousness, nothing really exists. So I agree. It makes the unseen like make more sense, I guess.
Yes, definitely. So from your studies at Quantum University, what insights changed your understanding of illness and the energetic nature of the body?
Yeah, so I studied there after I had already healed from depression. So I like to always tell people that you don't need to know these things or understand in order to heal, and that reason is right below love on the human scale of consciousness. For anyone that doesn't know what the human scale of consciousness is, it's in Power versus Force by Dr. David Hawkins, or you could just Google it. But love operates at 500, and 500 and above is your natural state. Reason is right below. Reason's at 400. And apparently Einstein operated at like 499 because he never truly let love in, but he was just that intelligent and had that much reason. And that's true for actually a lot of like scientists and things like that. They were like in the 400 range. So anyways, the point is that I was able to heal without understanding because I skipped reason and went straight to love. So I didn't actually, like everything I learned at Quantum University didn't actually contribute to me healing. I was able to heal without learning these things. I think that's very important to understand. And then it just was further confirmation after that I was like, oh, okay, it makes so much sense why I healed what I healed, because everything's starting to click, for example, you've probably heard of heart-brain coherence. Most people have. It's when you're in a particular state of 0.1 hertz. And I used to follow Heart Math Institute and do their heart, it's called the quick coherence technique. And I used to do that every single day to try to get into a state of coherence. And then when I studied at Quantum University and I took this course on heart rate variability, that's when I realized that, when you're in a state of coherence, there's an actual measurement for that of 0.1 hertz. And then even more started to click for me. I was like, 0.1 hertz is a very low frequency, but everyone keeps saying you need to increase your frequency, right? You hear that all the time in the spiritual world, increase your frequency. And then that's when like everything started to click for me. I was like, no, you actually want to have a low frequency and a high vibration, or a low frequency and a high consciousness, but you actually don't want to be in a high frequency. If you even look at the Schumann frequency of the planet, it's like 7 or 8 hertz. It's very low. So you don't actually... Sorry?
It's supposed to be 7.83. Well, that's what it used to be because it shifts up quite a lot now.
Right, which is not a high number. But everyone says, increase your frequency, increase your frequency. So that was
very interesting.
Yeah, and that was further confirmed after when I started learning theta healing. And a theta healing is essentially when you're connecting with creator consciousness. So you can ask the creator or creation energy, like anything that you want, and ask the creator for healings. And that's where I got confirmation from the creator that you do not want to be in a high frequency. Like you want to be in a low frequency. And if you think about it, you also have an engineering background. So this was like a way I was trying to understand it from an engineering perspective, but I know I'm missing a lot of things here. Frequency is 1 over time. So essentially the bigger the time, the lower the frequency, right? So like.
Correct. Yes.
Right. So apparently in the 7th plane of existence, which is creation energy, molecules move really, really fast. So it's a very small amount of time. So I was like, okay, so because frequency and time have an inverse relationship, the faster the time, I don't know. I was like trying to understand like how this like correlates, but essentially like the lower the frequency, the faster molecules are moving, and so the faster you can have healing.
I wonder if you're trying to say that the longer the time, the lower the frequency, but the faster the molecules move. Because when you get more time, because it's 1 over time, you're going to get a much, much smaller number. So by you having a much smaller number, it means then that the speed at which it will vibrate will be way faster than if time is actually kind of short.
Yes.
Flipping heck, that was just a massive download there. Like it just actually.
Thank you for putting it in terms for me. So yeah, what I'm trying to say is you heal faster when you're in a lower frequency because like molecules are moving faster. So that's why when you're in creation energy, you can have a healing within seconds or minutes because
this is why this is why flipping heck, this is just click to me. That is the reason why in this third dimension plane, time is the thing that is the currency, because time becomes short. And by time becoming short, where it's measured, it means then that our frequency is actually higher. And by our frequency becoming higher, this is why we're easily controlled. Oh, goodness. This is mad. Like you just put back the engineering part of me there. Okay, so this makes so much sense. So if time, because time is infinite, and the longer periods of time, when you have 1 over time, it means then you can actually lower your frequency. By lowering your frequency, you can actually promote healing because you're going into the theta state more, which is the state where you're communicating with God.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, wow.
Well, apparently I only know like 20% of the understanding or something like that. Like that's what the creator was trying to tell me, that it's part of my divine timing to understand more about why you want to have a lower frequency and a high vibration. But apparently currently I only have like 20% of the understanding. So that's all I can tell you for now, but apparently it's part of my divine timing. So maybe I'll come on in a few years and I'll have some more insights for you as to why we want to be in a lower frequency.
It makes so much sense because the thing that really resonates with me is the ancient hidden history, Anunnaki, Greek mythology, all that kind of stuff. Now, Kronos is the Greek god of time. Kronos is actually linked to Saturn. Saturn is also known as Remfran. Remfran is actually the star that I'm going to get very controversial here, but the star that the supposed Jews who are not really Jews worship, which actually is the hexagram, which when you delve further in creates a cube in the third dimension, right? Which when you unfold is the cross. This is why Judaism, Islam, and Christianity all are linked to Saturn, which is the black sun, which is linked to Kronos, which is the keeper of time, which is why religion puts you in a higher frequency, which is why you don't get any freedom for it, because you're actually going further and further away from God, right?
Yes, exactly. Saturn is known to delay things too. Like, I don't know if you study astrology.
A little bit.
Yeah, so if you have Saturn in one of your houses, then that's something that's going to be delayed for you. It doesn't mean you aren't going to have it. It just means something you're going to struggle with and have the biggest transformation, essentially. But what you were saying about religion, when I read Power versus Force the second time, it really started to click for me because it calibrated all the different religions. And it calibrated when they were first created and now where they're at now. And almost every religion except for Islam, when it was first original scripture created, was at 1,000, which is enlightenment, which is like the highest consciousness. But over time, they've all dropped because, there's misinterpretation. They've changed the scripture, all these types of things. And apparently the highest right now is Buddhism, but it's still not even at 1,000 like where it used to be. So, and Islam was never at 1,000 from the very beginning, which means there was always something about that religion that wasn't aligned with like highest truth and vibration. So I found that super, super fascinating.
Yeah, because Islam came from the cult of the moon, which came out of So it was the cult of which the Nabateans at the time used to, basically Mesopotamia. And it was a moon god called Nanarsin. And that cult went down to Arabia. And the name went from, because it was also Baal, Beelzebub. And then it became Ubal. And then Ubal became Allah. So there was never anything sacred or divine or any sort of truth in it at all. It was just basically Saturn worship, right? And very dark energy that was founded upon, which is why when you dive into Islam, it has more holes than Swiss cheese when you actually look into its narrative. Because I'm reasonably versed on religion, and Islam is my favorite because it just makes no sense. So I just found it very fascinating that it has been able to captivate and capture the minds of 1.5 billion people when you actually dig into their sources. And I did a whole trilogy about Islam on my show. And I don't think anyone that listened to that trilogy can walk away thinking that Islam has anything divine about it at all.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, I totally agree with that statement that you said that it was never close to 1,000 because it was just literally formed because of lies, literally.
Yeah, and you can
So
calibrate.
guys, yeah, definitely. So guys, we can take a very, very short, quick break here to say, if this conversation is resonating with you, hit subscribe right now. Give us a like, leave us a 5-star rating if you're listening on any of the podcast platforms like Spreaker, Spotify, or Apple, and share this episode with someone who's been struggling to fix themselves. Let's spread this message of surrender and self-trust far and wide, because when one person heals, the ripple affects us all. And also, take a screenshot of this episode and tag us on Instagram at Adriano_246 or at the Conscious Man 7 podcast, and tell us what was your biggest takeaway so far. Now back to Alicia. So you've said healing your body also healed your relationships. How are those two things connected?
Oh my God, yeah. So when you shift your consciousness, no area of your life is left untouched. Because like we talked about earlier, your consciousness is creating your entire reality. So it's not just your body that's going to heal. So when I was healing from depression, for example, depression, like I said before, is just stuck energy and suppressed emotions. So once I started to actually dissolve these emotions that I was carrying, like despair, shame, guilt, all these things, every single one of my relationships transformed, and it was a different energy under each relationship. So for example, with my mom, it was guilt. And so as soon as I started to dissolve guilt, like I went to this one retreat and we worked on some guilt with my mom. And then I came back from the retreat and my mom was like my best friend. And before that, I would avoid my mom at all costs. Like I would try to only see her on holidays and I never wanted to see her otherwise. And even seeing her on holidays was like hard for me. And then when I came back from the retreat and after I dissolved guilt, like we were hanging out all the time till like 2 a.m. I was like asking her to hang out, taking her out for dinner. Like it was like night and day different. And that was guilt. And then also my relationship with my sister has like narcissistic qualities. And so in order to heal my relationship with her, I had to dissolve resentment and anger first so that I wasn't, super upset with her for everything that she had done to me. And then I also had to clear shame, right? Because like I talked about earlier, someone with narcissistic qualities doesn't love themselves and they're carrying a lot of shame. So then I had to dissolve shame in order for my relationship with my sister to heal. And then with my dad, it was like fear and powerlessness. And when I started to dissolve fear and powerlessness, my relationship with my dad completely transformed. It used to be like I was terrified of him. Like he made my life a living, walking hell. Like I'm not going to lie. Like I used to think I'm not going to be at peace until he dies. Like it was that bad. And then when I started dissolving the fear and powerlessness, my relationship with my dad was night and day different. And now that's one of the most peaceful relationships that I have, which is shocking to me. So, so I would say that like that's why it healed my relationships, because I was dissolving the emotions that were causing the problems in the relationships. And so I was getting to the root cause, and there was a different root cause for every single one of my relationships. For other people, I don't think relationships are as big of a trigger because I actually have Saturn in my relationship house. So relationships are my biggest struggle. So I think that's why for me, I had to do a lot of healing work for my relationships to change. Whereas I think for other people, when they start to just do a little bit of healing work, they immediately start to see changes in their relationships, and they're not carrying as much stuff as I was carrying, I bet.
I find that definitely your relationships change as you go down this path, because you find out more about yourself. Because I'm starting to think that a lot of relationships, whether it's sexual, business, platonic, they fail because people really don't know themselves. So there's a lot of projection that goes on onto the other person, but not realizing is actually coming from you. So I find that when you start to really like heal yourself and to know yourself, because this is what Yeshua always talked about, know thyself. And the more you know thyself, it means then that relationships can work better because you're not projecting as much. Because all that's going to happen is that when you project onto someone, they're just going to give you back more of the same. So if you're a very angry person, you project anger on that person, but guess what? They can give you back more anger, right? So if you're depressed and sad and you dump that on someone, they can give you back more of it. So a lot of the times I think that a lot of the times we're basically the downfall of our own relationships, because we are just getting back our own medicine, and that we keep drinking and eating and wondering why we still keep getting sick, when it is that we are the ones that are generating it and giving it to others, So.
Yeah, I always say that no one can make you feel something that you're not already carrying. So if your relationship is that triggering for you, like it's not just them, like it's something within you. It's not like, oh, they made me feel unwanted. Like no one can just make you feel something that you're not already carrying. You were already feeling unwanted before. Like this happened, like we said, childhood, ancestral, or past life.
Definitely. So how does self-abandonment quietly show up in relationships and career? And what are the early signs people should look for?
Yeah, I see that so often. Like we talked about earlier, most people are not allowing themselves to feel what they're feeling and be honest with themselves, that they either don't love their job or maybe are unhappy in the relationship, or they're wanting more from the relationship. And the first step I would say to them is there's no threat in allowing yourself to feel what you're feeling. The fear I see people have is that if I allow myself to admit that I'm unhappy in this relationship or in this job, that there's nothing else available for them. So they're just going to be unhappy, but they don't get to do anything about it. They don't get to be with someone else. They don't get to have a different job. This is the best that they get to have. But what I always tell people is that the longing that you feel is evidence that it's available for you. So you don't even feel the longing for more until it's available. So that means if you're longing for more in your relationship, it means it's available. I don't know if that means in that current relationship, there's opportunity for it to shift, or it's with a different person, but either way, you get to have it. And the longing is evidence. And same thing, like if you're in your job and you're like longing for something more than just what you have at your job, it means there already is something else available. So there's absolutely no threat. And the only way to actually create those new opportunities, the new job, the new relationship, or people treating you differently in your job or in your relationship, so that maybe you are meant to stay exactly where you are and you can thrive exactly where you are, but that can still only be created in a higher consciousness than where the problem was created. So you can't stay in the same consciousness and expect to love your job, love your relationship, or get a new job opportunity, or have your partner show up differently for you. Those things can't happen if you're in the same same consciousness as the problem.
It is almost like, I can't remember if it was Nikola Tesla or Albert Einstein, but one of them said that you can't use the same mind to get you out of a problem that got you in it.
Einstein. Yeah, it's Einstein. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he was operating at a high level, for real.
$4.99.
Very interesting. So you often talk about wholeness over perfection. How does that mindset shift create freedom in love and purpose?
Wholeness over perfection. Yeah. So wholeness to me means coming back to who you truly are, which I believe is love, peace, and joy. I believe that's your natural state. The reason I believe that is from personal experience. Every time I have dissolved an energy or emotion that wasn't peace, love, or joy, what I felt immediately after was peace, love, or joy. So, for example, if I was feeling fear and I dissolved the fear, I felt peace. I didn't have to force myself to feel peace. I just felt peace when I wasn't scared. And when I dissolved shame, I felt more love, meaning I wasn't judging myself and other people as much. And I was just naturally feeling more love for myself and other people. And when I started to dissolve despair and hopelessness, I just naturally felt more joy. I didn't have to force myself to feel joy. So that's what I think wholeness is just coming in line with your natural state. And in terms of what you said about perfection, like sometimes I feel like when we're trying to be perfect, we won't like express our true selves, like what I'm truly feeling in this moment. Like if I'm actually upset with someone, like I won't express it because I'm trying to like come off like I'm poised or like things don't trigger me or whatever. And then you don't actually receive that opportunity to dissolve something that was not aligned with your natural state and wasn't serving you.
Yeah. And, I also find that a lot of the times, not everyone, but there's some people that they wouldn't do anything unless they're sure they can do it perfect or perfectly. Mm-hmm. So you end up getting in this status or this state where they don't do anything at all because it can't be perfect. And I find that I tell my clients all the time, progress over perfection. Focus on the small wins, the small bits of progress that you're getting in your life, and not necessarily about being perfect at it. Because one of my mentors always used to say that you fail forward, right? So he says that to win in life, you actually need to fail a lot. Because when you fail, you learn the lesson on how not to do the thing, right? Which is why I think, was it Thomas Edison? He said that he failed, 10,000 times before he made the first light bulb. And he said he just learned 10,000 ways on how not to do the light bulb, right? Yeah. So this is why, like, I was thinking, like, in turn, because you talk about wholeness and perfection. So, it's very interesting that you explained about the love and the shame there, because I never actually thought of it like that. That's a very quite interesting perspective to have, to be honest.
Yeah. And what you were saying about like some people won't even take action unless it's going to be perfect kind of thing. I've noticed that when people are carrying shame, it can show up in two different ways. It can show up as like, I'm not even going to try because it's not going to work out anyways, or I'm not going to do a good job. And they're carrying so much shame that like it's considered lazy, right? And then there's also people that are carrying so much shame that they want to overcome that and prove that they don't ever want to feel the shame. And they feel like, hey, if I accomplish all these types of things, then I won't feel the shame, right? Or if I improve the way I look, then I won't feel the shame. So then they're like go-getters that do a lot. So I've just noticed that people that are lazy and people that are like, I don't know what the word is, just like go-getters, they're actually carrying the exact same energy and one is not better than the other. I see so much hate on people that are lazy, but I'm like, these are two of the same people. They're carrying the same energy and they're both not healing it. So how can one like be better than the other? They're really not. So I actually have a lot of compassion for both of those type of people, but especially people that are considered lazy that get a lot of hate.
Okay, very interesting because, you know, I interviewed a guy recently and he spoke about his addiction to success. And he sold his tech company and he made 140 million. And then after that, he basically got depressed because his entire identity was tied to selling the company, right? And, you know, it is very much the same energy, but from different sides because he was a go-getter, right? He got, right? You know, but then his life for him internally felt like it completely fell off a cliff, you know? So very interesting, very interesting. So what does quantum medicine really mean to you beyond the buzzword?
To me, it means healing the root cause. So it means I'm going to change my beliefs and dissolve the emotions that are creating the problem. If we're keeping it very simple, like shift your consciousness, essentially, which is what I always talk about. Just get into a slightly higher consciousness than the problem, and the problem literally cannot exist anymore, or the solution has to come in. So how do you shift your consciousness? You have to shift your beliefs and dissolve your dense emotions. So you can do that in your own way and call that quantum healing, but that's what I think it is. You're just healing the root cause.
Okay. I do agree that root cause, funnily, because when I was a civil engineer, we were taught something called root cause analysis. And
right.
And basically the high level takeaway from root cause analysis, they call it the 5 whys. You basically ask why 5 times. And they found that generally after the 5th why, you get to the actual root cause of the problem, right? And we spent, was it a day? How many days of training we did? It was almost like a day or 2 days. I can't remember. So I was a certified root cause analysis practitioner.
Yeah.
And basically, right, if anyone wants to know to be that, just ask yourself questions 5 times, 5 whys, why this, why. And then eventually you'll get to the root cause of what is causing your problems. And you don't need to go and spend a day or 2 to become a root cause practitioner, root cause analysis practitioner.
That's true. You can ask yourself, what's the worst thing about this? And then keep asking yourself, well, what's the worst thing about that? And you'll eventually get to the bottom, which is like, okay, like maybe I'm afraid of dying, or maybe just I'm afraid of what people think about me, or like you have to keep asking, okay, what's the worst thing about what people think about you? And then you just like keep asking, what's the worst thing about that? What's the worst thing about that? And you'll get there.
And then a lot of times you realize that the thing is not even rational. It just doesn't even make sense because suppose it comes down to like fear of death, but okay, well, you generally can fear death for everything. Like you just go into the swimming pool, going to get the bus, you know what I mean? Going in the gym, you could faint and, you know, a barbell can fall on your throat, you know what I mean? Like, so sometimes you actually can realize if you do that, well, actually it's a phobia, which means an irrational fear, right? So.
Yeah, and it can show you what we call the bottom belief in theta healing. So I believe that when this happens, it means I'm going to die or something. And you're carrying a very specific belief. Or like, I'll be outsourced and people won't love me if I do this or whatever. It's so specific to each person, though. It's never a general belief. But yeah, so that's a way that you can find the bottom belief and realize that that needs to be pulled and canceled and replaced with a new program.
Interesting. Bottom belief, root cause. I am starting to see more and more that all of these disciplines really need to be taught as one. And it's almost like there should be a school where we have science, spirituality, psychedelics, healing, and martial arts, and all of these things that fuse everything together. You know what I mean? Cooking food, growing food.
Life skill.
Yeah, definitely. I think now, talking to you, that there needs to be a school that has all of these things together, because right now, from all of my conversations, I realize that everything is linked. And but the thing is now is that we don't have like an umbrella school, a place where all of these things are taught together. You know, from the time children come out, they talk about telekinesis, telepathy, and I might actually soon have a guest that does telepathy and telekinesis. So yeah, I mean, I'm starting to see like there needs to be a place that has all of these things under one roof, because I think that that's how we really become the God man, because you know they're not separate things at all. They're all linked.
Yeah, I think that everyone would know the same truth if we all cleared all of our limiting beliefs. I think we would all know the same truth, but right now we all interpret it differently. But I think there would be the same truth. Like we would all come to the same certain things, like we're pure love, abundance is your birthright, like all these types of things that we would just all know are true if we all dissolved all of our limiting beliefs. And I think each modality points to the same thing. Each modality I find is just another way to access pure love in some way, shape, or form.
I totally agree, because if learning about food and understanding how to eat comes from a place of pure love. Because when you're in a state of love, you're not going to eat processed food. You're going to avoid GMO food. You're not going to be eating puka pies, Cheetos, and Doritos. You know what I mean? Because you know you love yourself, right? So I totally agree that there's just different sides of love. They're just slightly different modalities that, when put together, you know what I mean, gives you many different skills, but it's based on one thing, which is love, and unconditional love, I would add as well. So where do you see mind, body, and quantum healing going over the next decade? And do you think mainstream healthcare will catch up?
I actually do. Oh, sorry. Okay, let's put it this way. I don't think the actual healthcare system will change because it's created that way on purpose. But I do think there's going to be new companies that start to incorporate this. Like this is already happening, right? There's like telemedicine companies like Hims and Hers that are starting to incorporate more holistic health. Or there's conventional medical doctors that are finding a way to bring in alternative medicine, but it's still covered by insurance because they're seeing a conventional medical doctor who's there while you're meeting with the alternative practitioner. I had someone actually approach me recently to do this with them. I was like, that's awesome. It's a way people can work with me and have it be covered under insurance. Like, that's so creative. So I have noticed that it's becoming more recognized. Like, one of my best friends is a doctor too, and she is always asking me questions, which I'm shocked by, because I just always assume that people in conventional medicine like just assume they know everything and they're not open to hearing other ways and things like that. But she has specifically seen me heal from so many things that she's always curious, like, how did you heal that? So I can help my patients. And so I can tell that the consciousness of the planet is increasing, which means like, obviously this is going to have to be incorporated more. Eventually, I don't know if it'll happen in my lifetime, but if we come into a high enough consciousness, certain systems I think will completely dissolve, like the educational system, the medical system, the legal system, because all of them are unlawful, fraudulent, like the energy behind them is not pure. It's about manipulation and control and making sure you don't know your power and don't access it. So that obviously has to dissolve the more we increase our consciousness. And in one of the books, I think it was by Dr. David Hawkins. No, it wasn't Dr. David Hawkins. It was in, Frank Kinslow. Frank Kinslow talks about how when the square root of 1% of the population awakens, the entire world will awaken, which actually is not an insane number of people. And then in Dr. David Hawkins' work, he talks about how one person in the consciousness of love counteracts 750,000 people that are 200 and below on the human scale of consciousness. So meaning just even one person coming into the consciousness of love is having a huge impact on raising the vibration or consciousness of the planet. So I have hope. I have hope that there's so many people out there doing healing work that we can increase the consciousness of the planet, even if everyone else isn't doing healing work, and we only need the square root of 1% of the population to do this, to get to the point where those other systems that are manipulative and not in our highest and best interests just completely dissolve.
Yeah, I am actually seeing a shift as well, because I interviewed a lady called Reverend Pam Conboy, and she has one of the fastest psychedelic churches in the United States. And she gets referrals from a medical doctor, because when the person is not sort of like getting results from the traditional medicine, they refer the patients to her, and they do mushroom ceremonies, magic mushroom ceremonies. And the healing stories that she shared on my channel were absolutely incredible. They had one guy that was a quadriplegic, and he eventually started to be able to move his toes after doing magic mushrooms a few times, because obviously magic mushrooms works with the neural networks in the brain. So reconstruction of that. So there's some real powerful stories out there where I think that for anyone out there listening that's in the medical industry, if you can find these little hacks that can, like Alicia is saying, can be covered by insurance and stuff, that are totally able to do, just embrace a lot of the alternative methods, because there is a lot of evidence that's showing that it does work, and it can actually complement the stuff that is in the main medical industry. Because the main problem with the medical industry is that it's based on having clients, which means you have to have sick people, right? So because that is based on that, it means you don't really get pure healing. Now, things like surgeries and stuff like that are great for Western medicine, but it doesn't get to the root cause. So anyone who is listening to my show, that you can do your part and tap into some alternative methods of healing, like Alicia, Pam Conboy, etc. Please do that, because you can help us to raise the consciousness of the planet and have these shifts. So what role do intuition and energetic awareness play in physical healing, and how can people begin to trust their own guidance system again?
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit, how instead of just trying a million things and hoping that something sticks, every single thing, feel into whether this feels heavy or light. I will say, though, that when I'm saying heavy light, I'm talking from personal experience, because my intuition speaks to me through a feeling and a knowing. But other people's intuition could speak to them in a different way. Like some people actually will hear something like, don't go to the doctor. Like they'll actually hear it, or they'll get a vision, maybe in a dream or something like that, because they're more clairvoyant. But I do find that most people are at least clairsentient, which means they can feel like when something's out of alignment, something's off, something's not resonating. So I think this will be relevant to most of your listeners. But if we have some listeners on here that don't get a feeling, like you never get that kind of gut feeling in your stomach, your intuition might speak to you in a different way. Just kind of notice, does this feel glitchy, contracted, and what state was I in when I chose to do this? Like, was I frantically searching for a solution in a state of urgency and desperation? Likely that wasn't the thing for you then. So just kind of feel into actually how I started to build my intuition, because I wasn't always like this. What I would do is, before I would make every choice, I would feel, how do I feel right now when I make this choice? Like the choice, I already decided it, but I'm just paying attention to how did it feel though when I chose. Like if someone asked me to go to this party, how did it feel in my body when they asked me to go? How did it feel when I'm driving there? How did it feel when I was there? And what got created from it? When I actually went to the party, what got created from it? Did I have a good time? Did I meet anyone? Because like I started to get more clarity that when something didn't feel like a hell yes, it was a no. It didn't actually create anything. And so even if there's something that you're like unsure about, I've noticed that even when I feel that unsureness, I just noticed that it didn't really create anything. Like, yeah, it means I could go do this thing or not do this thing, and it wouldn't make a big difference in my life. So it doesn't really matter. And that's why I'm indecisive. So I would go to this thing that someone would invite me to, and I would just have a decent time, but it wasn't like amazing, or it wasn't like I synchronistically met a new friend or someone I was just supposed to meet, you know. But other times when something feels so light, and then I go to that thing, and then you meet someone that like you're meant to connect with and meant to network with or collaborate with, or like a soul sister or a friend for life. But those things always felt like a hell yes. So I just started to pay attention to how did it feel before I made the choice and what got created from the choice. And it made me trust my wisdom even more fully.
You know, in my case, it is almost audio. So mine is generally, and it's very short sentences. Like for me, this podcast was born because my higher self woke me out of my dreams. This was like 3:00 in the morning and said 2 words 3 times: do podcasts, do podcasts, do podcasts. And if anyone was inside of my mind, it would have sounded like it was on loudspeaker, like someone with a megaphone shouting right in my ear, do podcasts.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily get like the feeling, but is the voice, and this is why I always call it the voice. The voice just says, and it's no more than 3 words. That's how I always know. And it's very clear. It's not like maybe this is like, do this, do that. So I seem to have to be told. I guess it's because I seem to be a very stubborn person. So I need to get it loud and be directly told. But that's how my intuition tends to work with me. Even like my assistant, when I was talking to her, because we didn't even have like a proper interview. She was recommended to me from a mate. I spoke to her, and he just said, get her. That was it. I said, okay. So I share that story because for some people, we don't get like that feeling, but that is but that's my intuition. That's my feminine part that is working within how I am as a person, where because I have these character traits, it's like, all right, we can just tell you. And I say, okay, I just listen and I just do. So I have tapped into that feminine side of me, which is more like the director to say, boom, 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 do this, do that, do that.
Yeah, that's fascinating because I hardly ever meet people that are clairaudient, I guess is the word for that. But I know they exist. So I'm glad that we covered that.
Oh yeah, I am 100% clairaudient. I never even knew that was a word, actually. I just call it the voice. I've said it probably, I don't know, I've done 100 and something podcasts, so probably maybe 60 times I've said the voice, and that's the only way I can describe it because it just talks to me. And even when I do psychedelics, it's very much the voice. I do get visuals with ayahuasca and stuff, but always a voice, always. So for someone just discovering this path, what are 3 daily practices that reconnect them to their body's wisdom?
Okay, so like I said earlier, you can't access your wisdom when you're in fear. So the first thing you need to, or like triggered in general. So the first thing you need to do is you need to dissolve the fear. And by dissolve it, I really mean just welcome it, right? Bring more awareness to it, presence it, breathe more fully, soften, because your body already knows how to dissolve it. And then only once you're in less fear are you going to tune in to something that you're considering and see the awareness that you're getting. I was about to say feel heavy or light, but like we just talked about, not everyone gets a feeling. So are you getting any sort of insight and awareness? And if you're not, because some people don't get it in the moment that they ask for it, right? They're like, hey, I asked and I didn't get any answers, right? So sometimes it will come later, right? It will come when you wake up, like when you're more relaxed, when you're in the shower. That happens all the time because you usually are more relaxed. Right before you go to bed, it happens to me all the time that I get all these ideas and I go write them down. It's just like when you're more relaxed, the awareness starts to come in. So even if you don't get the answer in that exact moment, wait for it. There's no urgency. I know a lot of the times it seems like, well, I have to make this decision now. And I would argue that that's not ever actually true because you can't lose something aligned with you. So I would also remind yourself of that because that will help you access your wisdom more. Like we talked about earlier, when there's no pressure, you know, when you're like trying to show someone something on your phone or your computer and they're standing there and then you can't find it, but then as soon as they leave, you find it. It's just that when you're more relaxed and less tense, you have more awareness and can think better. So that's the main thing I would tell someone who's trying to access their intuition more is like, try to soften and relax more. And if you're not getting the answers in the exact moment, you'll likely get them just when you happen to be more relaxed. So if you're trying to accelerate getting the answers, you need to find a way to get more relaxed, like whatever that is for you, like soften more.
Okay, and this ties in really well to my next question. When you think about the collective future, what's the deeper message humanity needs to hear about healing right now?
There's just so many things. I would tell them that like the energy that created you created everything and you're not separate from that energy. So what that means is that you have the power to create essentially anything that you want, as long as it doesn't harm another person, go against someone's free will, or go against your divine timing. So I would say like realizing that you have more power than you're aware of and start to look for evidence of it. So start to like notice, okay, when I dissolved my conscious or when I dissolved my fear, or, you know, I was less triggered, I noticed immediate shifts in my reality. I noticed people treating me differently. I noticed this problem getting resolved for me. And then you're going to start to know your power more and trust it more and start to go within instead of giving your power away and looking outside yourself for the answers. That will not serve you. If you're someone that like can't think for themselves and is constantly asking people for advice and things like that, you're not going to heal that way. And then life will always be trying to point you back to your own power. So then like you'll just keep getting more problems and symptoms and things like that because your body wants you to know your power, like it's on your side.
Okay, so let's get you out on this one. What does living in alignment with your higher self actually look like in the real world in terms of business, love, and health?
Okay, so when I studied theta healing, we actually went into the difference of when you get guidance from your higher self versus when you get guidance from creation energy versus when you get guidance from your angels, like all the different ways you can get guidance. And we had to actually ask the same question for every single, like whatever you would call it, like entity. And we also had to do that same exercise by going through all the 7 planes of existence and asking the same question so that you can tell the difference on when it's like God or the creator speaking to you versus your higher self, because it's not the same thing. And so the difference between the two is your higher self really wants you to learn lessons. Like they really want you to learn the lessons that you came here to learn, that you decided before you got here, I came here to learn this. So the way it speaks to you sometimes is a little more sassy, like, and a little bit more direct. Like you really shouldn't be doing that kind of thing. Versus from God, it will never use the word should or anything like that. It'll never feel forceful because God or the creator knows that like you can just download the learnings straight from the creator. Be like, okay, this problem that's showing up in my life, why is it showing up in my life? Download the learnings, integrate the learnings so I can move on with my life. And so the creator's just less, it's just more relaxed. Like you have everything you need. I don't care if you even resolve this in this lifetime. You can have another lifetime. Like I've just noticed that's the energy difference between the two. So I don't usually tap into my higher self. This is the short answer to your question. I go straight to the creator for answers. But I guess what you're trying to say mostly is, how do I listen to my intuition in business and relationships and day-to-day stuff? Is that kind of what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I feel like I make decisions very differently than other people. I don't make them from the mind. I don't make them from logic. It has to come through my intuition, which for me is a feeling, right? Like we said earlier, I'm claircognizant, or I just get a knowing. So because I've built up this skill now, I'm aware that when something feels a particular way, I already know it's not going to create anything. So I don't even put my energy in it for 2 seconds. So an example would be like, my sister one time was like, can you pick up these name tags for our dance auditions? And even though it's something that would take me literally a minute and cost me $1, my body was like, no. And it was a huge no. It was like knots in my stomach. Like, it felt so heavy. My body was like, no, you're not getting these name tags. And I know by now that when my body feels that way, my body is trying to tell me this is a waste of time, energy, and money. Like, you don't have to put your time, energy, and money into this. I don't know why, but my body it just has awareness that I don't have. And then I found out later the reason why my body didn't want me to get the name tags is because they weren't needed. We went to the auditions. Every single person at the audition we'd already met. So we already knew their names. So we didn't need their name tags. So that's just a small example of my body saves me so much time, energy, and money on small things and big things. I get it with dating as well. There was this one time, a night before I was going to go on my first date with this guy, I got that same feeling in my stomach. It was so bad. I was crying. My body was screaming at me, do not go on a date with this guy. Like, it just knows things that you don't know how it knows things, and it tries to protect me. So I really, really try to listen to my wisdom. I like I said earlier, I think I do it 90% of the time. And like that rare percent of the time that I'm not listening to my wisdom, even though it's making it clear, it's painful, it's uncomfortable. I feel like the rare times I don't listen are where I have doubts and fears and limiting beliefs. And so I don't trust it. But I've done so much healing work that again is only like maybe 10% of the time. So it just shows me where I have more healing work to do. So that's how I make my decisions, is like, I just get this like feeling like, don't do this, don't go there. And I've also noticed that when I'm ever unsure about something, like I said earlier, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. So I could still choose to do it if I want to, but just I'm going into it knowing this is not going to be life-changing. This party is not going to be life-changing. I'm not meeting the love of my life at this party, kind of thing. You know what I mean? I just listen to my body.
Wow, very interesting. I never thought that there was a difference in the messages from your higher self, source, angels or spirit guides and stuff. I guess I almost thought that they were all the same, So
I know. I did too before I took the course.
So,
yeah, it's very common.
Very interesting. This is why I said earlier that this podcast has definitely like enlightening me in so many different areas, because I get to have these really cool conversations, and I feel like a student, because a lot of the stuff I have done work on myself or read books or had experiences, but I understand why my assistant put your name in front of me and said, get her, because like I said before, like I trust her a lot, and she knows me really well. And there's just this thing that I find that, as a female, she has this intuition, and so I really enjoyed this conversation with you. So with that being said, please tell the lovely listeners at the Conscious Man 7 where they can find you, or they can work with you. Do you have any courses, books, anything that you would like to plug, and all of that good stuff?
Yeah, okay, so you can find me on my website, which is aliciakapani.com, or on all social media platforms. Instagram is where I hang out the most. That's Alicia_Kapani. And I have a freebie that's like my go-to mind body tool to dissolve emotions and come into a higher consciousness. That's just in the link in my bio on Instagram or on my website if anybody wants that. There's lots of different ways to work with me. I have a book I publish on quantum physics for beginners, for people that want to learn how their consciousness is creating their reality. You can work with me privately. I have DIY courses. I have a group membership. So you can just check all of that out. But I would definitely get that free resource for anyone that's like, I don't actually know how to process my emotions or do the more feminine approach to healing. That's something I'm kind of missing. Then I would recommend downloading that.
Okay, and links to everything Alicia will be in the description of this podcast. And guys, as we spoke about, fears, traumas, thoughts, belief, all of these things show up not only in your physical body, but how you show up in the world. And if you would like to show up in the world in shape, having an alignment in your mind, body, and spirit, I can help you to get in shape because I help spiritually inclined people burn fat and build muscle. So if you would like to get into shape, and Christmas is coming up, which is the season of gluttony, and we know what happens there. We tend to put on an extra 3 kilos every single year. So if you would like to avoid that 3 kilo weight loss, hit me up on my Instagram at Adriano_246 or my name Todd Cave on Facebook. Send me a message. Let's have a chat and see if you're a good fit for the Compound Body Training Army. And if you are on a spiritual journey, or you would like to start a spiritual journey and you would like some help moving some fears and traumas, I can help you to get some magic mushrooms. So again, hit me up on my Instagram at Adriano_246 or my name Todd Cave on Facebook, and I will help you to get some magic mushrooms. And if you would like to support this podcast, you can do that by visiting our merch store. We have some cool tank tops, hoodies, shirts, and sweats. Link will be in the description of this podcast. And today I have on the Conscious Man 7 shirt today. So if you would like to join the Conscious Man 7 team, head over to our Todd and Me store on Amazon and get yourself a shirt or hoodie. We have some new designs that are coming very, very soon, which should be available for Christmas and all that kind of stuff. And also, guys, if you would also like to support this podcast, but you don't like the ads that are on the podcast, you can hit us up and join our Patreon or locals community. You'll get access to me one-on-one. You get early releases of the podcast as well as ad-free. And for example, like when I went to do the ayahuasca retreat, the entire video of the day after when I did ayahuasca will be on my Patreon or locals. Because, we share a little bit with our little personal stuff with them. So, yeah, if you would like to support us, but none of the other things resonate with you, head over there, Patreon and locals, just for a few bucks a month, and you can get to talk with me and interact with me directly. So, guys, if this conversation expanded your mind or touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Like, comment, and share this episode. And tag 3 friends who are ready to stop fixing themselves and start feeling whole. Follow us on Instagram at Adriano_246 or at the Conscious Man 7 podcast for more conversations that awaken the next level of human consciousness. Remember, healing isn't becoming someone new. It's remembering who you already are. This has been another episode of the Conscious Man 7 podcast, where we go deeper and further than most other podcasts go. Our sole purpose is to touch, move, and inspire others to work on themselves in order to find their true purpose and reach their highest potential. Alicia, thank you very much for being a guest on the Conscious Man 7 podcast. I really enjoyed talking to you today. And guys, until the next time, folks, remember, keep smiling, keep shining, and keep being the change you want to see. Speak to you soon. We have some more cool, great guests coming, so stay tuned. Cheers, speak to you soon. Cheers, and namaste.